This week I'm making a windshield cover for our Sprinter van. It is to replace the one that I made out of feed bags a few years ago. And this works, I just threw it together. It's basically free except for the cost of some elastic. But this material only lasts for a few years or so before the white stuff starts to flake off. So I thought I would go ahead and make something that looks a little bit more professional. I'm loving my windshield, even though it's not finished. It's just waiting for the trim. But it really is nice inside. Now, all my materials came in last night. I ordered them a couple of weeks ago, but the mail is taking a lot longer these days. And it's from a company back, are they Wisconsin or Minnesota or one of those states up by the lakes, called Sailrite. And yes, as the name implies, they mostly deal with people who are making stuff for their boats, windshield covers and bimini covers and sails and all of that sort of thing. But they also have some wonderful tutorials, video tutorials on YouTube. They have about almost 100, I think. So it's a great place to go and get some inspiration if you're looking for a project to make. The one I watched for this project was one that they were making a cover for a boat for that front windshield. And they wanted something that you could actually see through, but also gave you privacy. So you can't really see in, but you can see out, at least in the daytime. So let me show you some of the materials that I got to make this happen. So the material came in this box, and the other supplies I purchased from them was this binder, this swing-away binder device to make putting the binding on much easier. So we'll see how that works. I bought some thread. It's polyester thread. That's for outdoor use. One of the most important things on a project like this is getting a good template. And because a windshield is curved, it's a little bit more of a challenge. And especially, some of those high parts, I'm definitely going to have to get John out there, but I may have to get a taller ladder. But as you can see, I've lots of ladders. So I'm going to show you this interesting material that they use to make templates out of. Oops. Okay, so this is the fabric. Well, it's kind of a plastic thing, but the reason it's good for templates is because it has it's kind of reinforced. You can see that little diamond shape in there, so it's reinforced, so it won't stretch as you make your template on the window. So that's what I'm going to use for that, and it's really inexpensive. And of course, at first I thought, oh no, I don't need it. But then I thought, I'm going to try to do it right this time. Make my job easier. And then this is it's called Fifertex. This material for the windshield itself is called Fifertex. I think it's like 52, 54 inches wide, which should be fine. I'll probably have to make this in a few pieces because I want to also include the side windows. But you can see, it's got holes in it. So you can see why you'd be able to see out, but maybe not see in. And if this works out well, and if it's easy enough to make, I actually may make one that is solid just for parking it in front of our house to keep the heat from building up inside. And that's what I liked about my feed bag. That's what I used it for, just to keep the heat out of the van and off the windshield. Also keeps the windshield a little cleaner. Probably 10 or 15 years ago, I purchased one of their sewing machines. They sell, actually I think they've added a third style machine, but they're just very basic. This one just does a zigzag and a straight stitch. But this is the machine, and it's a little heavier duty. And what I like about it for these bigger projects is it has a feed dog. It has a walking foot. And a walking foot, the foot actually moves and helps the fabric move through whatever you're making. So that should make it a little bit easier. And then the that swing-away binder fits into these two holes. So I'll get that attached. I've also oiled the machine, and I'm going to put a new needle in because it's good to put a new needle in every time you start a project. I bought enough fabric of this template material to go wrap all the way around, but because of the rear view mirrors, it makes it challenging. So I'm just going to do the windshield, and then I'll come back and do the sides, and then tape it together, and then we'll see if I can get it all out of one piece of fabric. I'm going to go ahead and cut off some of this excess though. So I've cut the second piece up to match the line over here. And I went up online and looked at the Sportsmobile website because they make a cover. It's $170. And I want to see how they wrapped it around the window, the rear view mirror. And now I have to decide how long and how wide. But right now I'm just going to figure out how long I want it down here. And then I'll leave this side long. All right, I got both sides on. I folded it in half because I obviously want a mirror image. And now I'm going to kind of true up some of the edges and try to see if I can make them fit. Okay. Finished trimming it inside, and now I'm trying it out, and I think I'm going to trim a little bit more off the bottom of the windshield here, and then we'll be able to start the cutout.
So how do you like it so far? Has it been harder or easier than you had thought?
Well, making the pattern is always the hardest part, and I think everything after that will be much easier. But especially with such a big rig, it's really hard to reach those spots. And it hasn't helped with the sun. You know, if it had been a nice overcast day, it would have been beautiful. But we'll make it happen. We are back for day 2 of the sewing project, and today I'm going to cut out the fabric, and I have to actually cut my pattern so it will fit on the fabric that I have. Obviously, it's not going to fit on this fabric. I folded the fabric over, so it's doubled. The fold is on that side. And I think the way I will deal with it is I will cut the template right here between where the windshield and the side windows meet. And I will cut that right there in the middle, and then I'll add a seam allowance on each side and stitch that together. So that's the next step. So I've placed this edge on the fold, and you want to make sure you're really accurate when you're placing things on the fold, because any mistakes will be doubled. And this is where I have to add the 1/2 inch seam allowance, or bigger if you want. And I'm going to use this marking pen to mark it. And everything is traced out, and now I'm gonna make the cuts. This rotary cutter works really well for this. So now I have pieced it back together, well, just laid it flat, and I'm going to get some double stick tape to put along where the seams are going to go. And then when John gets back from his bike ride, we will try it on the van before I sew it, because these seams are going to be critical in how it fits. In order to be sure that I got the angles right, I have put the pattern pieces back on the floor and realized that I had not gotten the seam allowance correct. I had only overlapped it an inch when I needed to overlap it 2 inches because I added an inch seam allowance on each side. So that looks pretty good, but I'm not going to stitch that until I have tried it out on the vehicle. But so far so good. As I was getting close to finishing the binding on the windshield cover, I realized that I had not ordered enough, and so I was going to have to stop the project. We went ahead and used the cover on our trip to Joshua Tree, and it worked out really well. But also, as I was sewing this, I was thinking about my brother who has a business up in Spokane, Washington called Camp Time. He makes a roll-up table, some camping cots and stools, and I got to thinking, this seems a lot like the fabric that he uses, and I should have called him first to find out if he had the same stuff. Now, his isn't identical, and he's going to actually send me some more pieces, several different styles of vinyl that he uses, but his is wider, and if I had called him and ordered from the fabric from him, I could have gotten a piece that did not have to be pieced like this did. So I had to stitch this together, and that's really kind of a challenge because if you get your angle wrong, it could throw the whole thing off. To be able to cut it out of one layer of fabric would be wonderful. So he has 72-inch wide fabric, and Sailrite's was 54, I think, although they do have one that's a little bit wider, but it still wasn't 72. So my brother is going to send me 4 yards each of 2 other style vinyl mesh that he has that might work, and and I can get it less expensive from him. But I still had to figure out how I was going to attach this to the vehicle. Now, Sportsmobile uses some clips that go into the edge of the door. I don't know how I would attach those, even if I could find the clips. I'm not sure how I would attach it. I also want to be able to open the door without messing things up. And if you had this clipped, I think it would stretch the fabric too much. But anyway, I thought I would experiment with magnets. So I'm using, on here, I'm using the same magnets that I've used in the van to hold the warm window curtains down. I just sewed a little pocket in there and have one at 3 spots on each door. Once we started using this, we realized we don't need magnets along the top or at the bottom, but hopefully this will be enough. If I have to add additional magnets, I could do that in some other places. But in making this, I started thinking, I wonder if I could actually make these to sell. So I'm going to explore that idea. We're going to go visit my brother up in Spokane again this summer, and I'll talk to him about some of the details. And there's a potential that I might make some of these and sell them because I think the Sportsmobile is way too expensive. The RV cover one doesn't have the same look that I want. And so I'll explore that. And if that's something, if I could get the price under $100, I think that might be an interesting project for me. So you can tell me what you think in the comments below. But anyway, it's really worked out well. I like the look. I love that, and when we were at Joshua Tree, we could look out, still see the scenery, and feel like we had some privacy in there. So I want to say something about whether I would recommend other people make this project. This was not easy. This was actually harder than the warm window project because of making the template. Making the pattern for this is a bit of a challenge. It takes some time. And so that's probably the biggest challenge. But also, if you don't have the right equipment, the binding tool that I bought alone was like $60 or $70. So that's quite an investment. And the amount of time it took me a large part of the one day just to make the template, and then another day to sew it and all of the rest of it, figuring that out. So I'm not sure if it's a project that would save you money, but I find things like this rewarding. But if you are experienced and you want to take on a project like this, then I would definitely go for it. And if you want a different color, you can get this stuff in all kinds of colors. So that's the project this week, and we'll be on the road next week up to see grandkids and just be gone a few weeks and then back. And I also wanted to update you on the refrigerator. We just got a notice from the isotherm people, Wabasco, and because the project, a lot of their parts come from this product comes from Italy, and they were in lockdown for a solid 2 months. Nothing is shipped, and now we're not expecting the new refrigerator until the end of July, so it'll probably be August before we get around to installing the new refrigerator, which I don't know if I mentioned before. It's an isotherm 115. We went with that one because it has the energy consumption is really low. The size of it was almost a perfect fit. We hope, and it had, you know, we like the look. I like the freezer was a little bit bigger. It has some interesting cutouts behind the refrigerator, so it's really meant to maybe fit into a bulkhead situation. And this opening here in this fridge, the fridge opening is challenged because there's a vent pipe. There's a vent pipe that vents the gray tank and the sink in the bathroom. Vents both of those things. So that's kind of a challenge for us in the back. But hopefully we'll get it done, and we'll be able to help anybody else that's interested in doing a project like this. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.